friends. Thanks for joining with me today. Today I wanted to ask a question. Are you seeing the world through a distorted lens of perfectionism? And I have 7 ways to test yourself to see if that is what you're doing. And I've always known that I have been a perfectionist, but I didn't understand. I thought I had it under control, but I didn't understand how much that carries through to everything. Our relationships, how we see the world, how we view our relationships. And so this has really been an eye-opener for me. And I hope it's an eye-opener for you as well, because we can't fix what we don't know is wrong, right? So I have these 7 ways, and I made the 7 myself through listening to that book I have been referencing a few times now called Bonds That Make Us Free. So our first one is, are you obsessed with duty? Some people want to do things to impress other people, but you're really obsessed with duty itself. You have a duty to yourself and to God and to someone or something, and duty is just your driving force in life, okay? Number 2, you are not doing this duty to impress other people. In fact, it doesn't matter to you. The person you're trying to impress and prove yourself to is yourself. You're doing this to seek your own approval. Okay. Number 3, do you hold back on things? Because you start thinking, well, he gives an example of going to visit somebody in the hospital. If I go to visit them in the hospital, then I'm going to have to take flowers or a treat, or I'm going to have to do this, and I'm going to have to entertain, and I'm going to have this great conversation. And I'm like, you just start thinking of all these things that you should have to do once you get there. And so then that stops you from going, because your list of things that make this duty-bound effort worth it are too much to handle. Okay? Number 4, you are constantly thinking of life and things out of shoulds and oughts. Okay, so that's back to number 3, holding back. I should do this. I ought to do this. And we call that shoulding all over yourself. Okay, we just bog ourselves down in all the shoulds and oughts that we are not doing, or that we think we should be doing. Okay. Number 5, your worth is tied to your ability to sacrifice. If you're not sacrificing, your value is down. If I should be doing this for this person, and if I'm not, my self-worth is lower because I'm not doing what I should. I'm not fulfilling my duty. Okay? Number 6, you harbor a lot of resentment. And by that, it's you have placed so many demands on yourself. Your moral demand list is massive. So when anybody else comes in and has a request or a demand, or needs something of you, your instant thought and feeling is resentment. Like, I have already got all this stuff that I need to do, and now you're asking this of me, and I already ask so much of myself. And you're never satisfied. That's the problem with perfectionism, is that you could do every duty that you think that you have, and you always think that there is more. You're never, ever at peace, because there's always something more you should do or you ought to do. So the bar keeps getting raised higher and higher and higher for yourself. And also when you, if anything goes wrong, not according to plan, perfectionists are very detail oriented, down to the minutest of details. And so when something comes along, like, I get a flat tire on my way somewhere, that's kind of like an offense. That's like an affront to me. How could this happen? This shouldn't happen. And it just kind of wrecks your whole world. And it really takes a perfectionist down because it's getting in the way of these plans that have been laid. And so how can we recognize perfectionism as a gift instead of a weakness, and overcome some of these things that we need to overcome to not cloud our judgment? Because a perfectionist never wants to accept help from somebody else because they can always do it better, or they don't want to put somebody else out, or they think it's all their duty to do it. I've got this. Okay, it's all under control. I've got this. So these are things that can really ruin your life, ruin your outlook on life, and hurt relationships as well. So I have 4 things that you can do to start thinking about how you can move through this perfectionism into a better place. And it's going to take some time and a lot of practice. So number 1, ask yourself, how is this serving me? How is this long list of shoulds and oughts serving me? So go back to not going to a hospital because you've got this whole long list. How is that serving you? And see if you can't scale back on your list of demands so that it can serve you better. Okay? Number 2 is remove the shoulds and oughts from your vocabulary. Don't say them anymore. Don't say I should or I ought. If you catch yourself saying those words, remove them and try and think of whether or not that item needs to be done without using a should or an ought. Okay? Number 3, create order. So anytime something comes along that blows up your plans, you can look at that instead of an offense to you as an opportunity to create order. Perfectionists love to create order. And I've been trying this. When something goes wrong, instead of getting upset, thinking, okay, here's my opportunity. I get to create order. This is good. This is great. Okay? Number 4, you need to get good at forgiving yourself. Because a perfectionist is really good at not forgiving themselves and getting down on themselves and beating themselves up for all those lists of shoulds and oughts, those moral duty-bound tasks that must be accomplished. Because we want peace. Peace has been so elusive to me because I didn't realize that what I thought was under control in my perfectionism, as far as not needing to have projects that I do perfect, I still had that thread going through every other area of my life, and I didn't realize how embedded this perfectionism thing was in my life. But to then see it as a talent and something that is good and positive if it is harnessed correctly and used correctly. And so just stop and think about these things, those 4 things. Is it serving you? Remove the shoulds and the oughts. Look at every opportunity of something going wrong as an opportunity to create order. And number 4, get good at forgiving yourself. Remove the blame, the shame, and the complaining. And you will have peace in your life. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.